Hello, my friends. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. If you are here live, I can see there's a couple of people here, so that's really cool. Given this was quite I want to say inspired action to actually come here and do this particular video because as I mentioned in the email, if you are on my email list, if you're not, go to mitchasser.com and sign up there, or digitalnomadsessions.com, and you can sign up there as well. And you'll get emails from me quite regularly, and most of them are updates for YouTube videos. But as I mentioned, I haven't been posting on social media at all for a little while. And there's a number of reasons why. The first reason is because I was in Miami, and I had to get out of there, come to Australia, back to Australia, and get back to a place where I felt more comfortable while the craziness of this world was happening. And the second reason is I've sort of been just sitting and contemplating and thinking about, the direction of everything right now. So basically, what I'm going to cover here today is a little bit about myself, quarantine reality, staying healthy, and is the world doomed? They're essentially the three things. So how to virtually guarantee that you'll be healthy during these tough times. And the reason why I can virtually guarantee that is because if you don't know yet, my previous business was in the health and wellness space. So we've interviewed, 150 odd of the world's best health experts who have affected millions of people in terms of getting them healthy, and so that they're staying healthy. And we learned quite a lot through that. So I'm sort of bringing back some of my old content in order to share it right now, because that's more relevant than anything else right now. And I just want to share some of the biggest pieces of gold that have really helped my life over the last 5 years. The only time that I've been sick in the last 5 years was for about a week when I overworked myself and I was too stressed out. Any other times that was just 1 week of the last 5 years. The rest of the time I've been completely healthy, probably one of the healthiest people on earth, because of a few certain things that you need to do. Plus I'll talk a bit about my self-quarantine reality right now in the van, my thoughts on whether it's a positive or negative thing as well. And then I'm going to talk about the future of the world and what to do to gain certainty. So make sure you watch right through to the end. If you are on live and you want to ask some questions, definitely try that. It does say the chat is unavailable right now, so we'll see how we go with that. But we can definitely do that as well. So I guess the first place I want to start is health, because that is the most important thing right now. And it's something that I've been really focusing on. Well, I mean, I focus on it all the time anyway, but something that I'm a little bit more intentional about, even just a little bit more, because that's the thing that's going to affect you the most right now. Now, I think after everything that we learned in the previous business that I had is doctors and scientists and researchers and all of the people that we sort of rely on for our information around health, they don't actually know the health component, or they're not overly trained in the health component of being healthy. They're more trained in the management of disease. And you can see that being played out right now, where instead of talking about how we can lift our immune system so that this virus doesn't affect us, we're talking about how to isolate people because we don't want this virus to spread. And, I'm not saying either of them are right or wrong or anything like that, but I always tend to focus on where I naturally want to be as a human. And naturally for me, I don't want to be managing the disease. I want to be naturally getting healthy. And if you really sit down and think, like deep down, like that you're supposed to be healthy, right? For some people that's hard to imagine, because they've been sick for so long. And I was definitely one of those people. Like as a teenager, early 20s, I was always sick. I got maybe the cold and flu maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I had really bad acne. I was taking the strongest antibiotics, the Roaccutane, which has side effects for like suicide and stuff like that, craziness. I was taking that for my skin. Like I was just super unhealthy, right? And I always got sick. So to me, my reality was it's normal to get sick, but it's actually not. As a human, we're meant to be well. Well-being is always inside of us. It's the resistance that we have to being well that actually causes us to get sick. So there's a lot of things that we can do there. So the best piece of information to simplify all of this that I got in my last business when we had that natural health and wellness business is that disease is really 2 things. And if we can just simplify it, there's thousands of diseases, but if we can simplify it down to as much as we can, disease is nothing but 2 things. Number 1 is too much toxicity in the body. And number 2 is a nutrient deficiency, right? So what does that mean for us? If we are sick, that means we're toxic or nutrient deficient. So what should we do? First of all, we should remove the toxicity from the body. And secondly, we should add nutrients. That's what I followed when I was in that really bad space of always being sick, having fatigue, having acne, always having a cold and flu. I followed those two things, get more nutrients and remove toxicity. And that's really what transformed my life. That's what stopped me getting sick all of the time. That's what made me feel lighter and happier and more energy and more focus and more clarity in my brain. I didn't have that brain fog anymore just by doing those two things. And I went for an entire period of 4 years, didn't get sick once. And it was only last year when I was working like 90 hours a week, where I was juggling 2 businesses and a full-time contract for a company as a marketing manager, that I was working like, ridiculous amount of hours, that I put myself into too much stress and got sick from the stress, essentially. And that's what caused me to sell my business, get rid of that contract and start where I am now. So that's all it is. So if we want to increase the nutrients that we have in our body and then decrease the toxicity in the body, that's really what we do. So what I've been doing over the last few days is, one of the best ways to decrease toxicity in the body and remove toxicity from the body is with fasting. So fasting is something that humans have done since the beginning of time. Fasting is something that animals do out in the wild when they get sick. They'll lie down next to like a water hole and just drink water and eat grass to like bring up all of the sickness out of their body. And once they've fasted and got rid of that, then that's when they'll go and eat again. So like we're innately ingrained to actually go out there and fast regularly. However, because food is so easily accessible these days, then it's something that's been forgotten. You can find it in all of the old religious texts, from Jesus fasting for 40 days and 40 nights and a whole host of the other ones. So it's something that's really been there for a long time. And it helps not just reduce toxicity, but it also helps with mental clarity. So once you have removed that toxicity, a lot of people are using fasting for high performance, whether that's for mentally, or there's a lot of people using fasting now for actual physical high performance as well. So I've been juice fasting, which is essentially me just drinking 2 to 3 liters of cold pressed juice each day. I also have been having my medicinal teas as well. And basically, there's a whole host of reasons why that's beneficial, but one of the biggest ones is a lot of the disease that we actually pick up and a lot of the toxicity that we have in our body actually comes from our digestive system. So when your digestive system is clogged up, when it is not flowing correctly, when you're putting the wrong things in there, that's how toxicity, soaks into the bloodstream and the body much faster. So if you can remove everything that's in that digestive system and give it a bit of a break for a little while, then you actually start to get healthy. And the reason why that happens is because there's a whole host of different stats on what this actually is, but there's a number of experts that say anywhere between 30 to something like 70% of the energy that we use internally in our bodies is through digesting food. So when you're not digesting food all of the time, all of that energy is then freed up to like go to different parts of the body and start healing those parts of the body as well, which in some cases means removing the toxicity. In some cases, it just means, healing, just like you have a cut on your finger. Say I've got one there. In a little while, my body is innately going to fix that cut, right? And that's what it does internally as well. If you've got something that wrong internally, then when you give it enough energy to actually go and basically fix that, then that's what it will do innately. But the challenge is that we're always eating and we're always over accumulating and just eating too much food and stuff like that the body doesn't have time or space or the energy to actually go and do those things. So that's what fasting does. There's if you were to follow a fasting expert, out of everyone that we learned from, out of those 100 and interviewed, out of those 150 experts, I would say go follow Tyler Tolman. He's American. He lives in Bali. He does a lot of work in Australia. He's the best at taking what is health and simplifying it as much as possible. And if you want to dive deeper into that, then I'd recommend to go follow him. I don't have any affiliation with that or anything like that. I just think the work that he does is absolutely incredible. So that's what I've been doing. And before I actually started fasting, I also did a couple of days on just raw food. So there's three different speeds that you can actually heal your body. The first one is the fastest way to get healthy is to water fast. However, water fasting is a lot for a lot of people right now. You know, if you water fast, you've absolutely got to do nothing. You've got to follow the right principles. So definitely get some guidance on that. And it brings up toxicity fast. So there'll be times where you feel like you're pretty much going to die, but that's just bringing up toxicity really quickly. I've done up to 5 or 6 days on water only. I think day 3, 2, 3, and 4, I couldn't really get out of bed. I remember crawling to get some water once because I couldn't even walk. However, once your body kicks into ketosis, then you start to burn fat as energy and you start to feel amazing. And some of the things that can happen on water fasting are incredible. There's a lot of testimonials out there of people who have water fasted, and what the body does, it goes into this mode called, it's on the tip of my tongue. I haven't done this work for so long now. No, can't think of it. It will come to me. But basically, it goes into this mode of where it will start to like eat foreign proteins in the body, right? So it'll start to decompose them to use as energy, and the body is so smart that it'll actually start to use the things that that the body knows it doesn't need. So there's been a lot of testimonies and stories that like moles and cysts and skin tags and things will actually like be eaten away and disintegrate on a water fast because the body's using that as energy. So that's how they heal a lot of amazing stuff, because the body is using that stuff as energy on a water fast. So if you're on a water fast, definitely get some more information, blah, blah, blah. The second fastest way is juice fasting, because juice fasting is still emulating the fasting process. However, you're feeding your body with nutrients as well. And today it's probably better to juice fast because most people are nutrient deficient. And at the same time, you're giving your digestive system a break. You're also feeding it with nutrients. It also means that you have more energy throughout the day and you can continue to work and stuff like that. So that's fasting. That's juice fasting. And then the third fastest way is just a raw food diet. So eating fresh fruits and vegetables, all completely raw foods. And that's what I was doing for the 3 days leading up to the 4 days on juice fasting that I just did. And I feel amazing after that. So that's basically what I did in order to make sure I'm in the best place possible, especially when I was on a flight coming back to Australia and things like that, which is just a cesspool of germs, right? So that's basically what I did. And there's no guarantees in life, but if you did those things regularly, there's a very, very high chance, based on my experiences and the thousands and thousands of hours I've done of research, the thousands of testimonials that I've seen in terms of people getting healthy and staying healthy. If you're doing those things, then you're pretty much going to be in a healthy place most of the time. And then just on top of that, a few of the other things that are important that I do every day is deep breathing. So follow Wim Hof. He's like massive now in terms of deep breathing all around the world for high performance, for health. They've actually like recorded injecting a virus into his actual bloodstream, and he'll use the breath to move that out of the body within like 15 minutes. So breathing is super important. Meditation, I talk about that all the time. If you want more information on meditation, just follow whatever seems right for you. All meditation is great. I just like to calm my mind, and I'm going to talk about this very much later. So maybe I'll give some more tips on meditation later. And then the other things that I'm doing to boost my immune system on a daily basis is medicinal mushrooms. So they're adaptogens, which means you can use them every single day. And the more that you use them, the stronger that your immune system gets. So I'm using them every day. And then I put this in the last video that I posted as well. But basically, when I was just before the flight and while I was on the cruise and while I was in all of these high risk areas, what I was doing, I was drinking a very special elixir, let's call it, a special drink. Basically, it had 5 or 6 drops of oregano oil in it, or oregano, whatever you want to call it, depending on what part of the world you're in. So that's just a really high quality essential oil that you can put into a drink, food grade, some Himalayan salt, and let's just say like a teaspoon, and activated charcoal. So that drink does a whole host of different things. First of all, the oregano oil is great for respiratory. So it helps with that. And the salt is very alkalizing, and it's not like a sponge, it's like a magnet. So as the activated charcoal goes into the body, all of the toxicity is like magnetized towards it, and then you release it out through the back door when it comes time to remove your toxicity that way. So that's why having the salt and activated charcoal is good, is because it's helping that digestive system to flow, and it's binding all of the toxicity from your digestive system into that activated charcoal, and then you get rid of it once you go to the toilet. So having that like every 3 days was really good, and I felt really great from actually doing it as well. And that's just something that I do not as often, so I try and do something like that maybe once a month typically. However, in the current circumstances, I'm trying to do that a little bit more. But that's just another really great way. It's like sort of a hack on top of all the other things that I've already mentioned. So that's pretty important. And to put activated charcoal into perspective, it's the first point of call that they use in hospitals even today, when someone comes in with poisoning, right? Whether that's food poisoning or other types of poisoning, they get them to drink a ton of activated charcoal to get that into the stomach. And there's something, I remember one of the doctors that we interviewed once in my last business, I think he said like half a teaspoon of activated charcoal is enough to soak up enough toxicity that will cover like a tennis court or something crazy like that. So it's super powerful stuff, has no taste whatsoever, has not really any side effects that I know of, or that I've seen, or that I've heard anyone talk about. So it's just really great to have in your arsenal as like an extra thing to be super healthy. So I hope you like, they're probably my biggest things, my biggest takeaways in terms of eating healthy. And then on top of that, just eating a whole foods plant-based diet is seen to be probably the most alkalizing one right now, which means when your body's alkaline, you can't get sick. Disease can only grow in a toxic environment, and toxicity comes from, most other things like processed foods and alcohol and, all of the foods with antibiotics and preservatives and all of that type of stuff. So a lot of the meat that you get will actually be acidic, and you don't want that. So just eating as much fruit and vegetables as possible, and let's just say 95% of the time, and then the other 5% of the time you can do what you want. And that way you're pretty much guaranteed to be healthy. So I'd encourage you to do that, because once you're healthy, that's when you have choices, right? And that's when once you're healthy, you have a different outlook on the rest of the world. Even in the tough times. And I remember, it's sort of hard for me to remember being sick right now, but I remember this one time, probably like when I was 22, so like 8 years ago, that I was so sick for so long. And I just remembered like having no outlook on life. I was like, man, it would like literally be better to be dead right now than to keep going on. And you can hardly see through the end of the day, because like thinking about the future while you're sick is just, it's so hard to do, right? And you don't want to be in that place, because where we are right now is you need to be as healthy as possible in order to think right, because there's going to be a whole host of changes that come, not just from the virus, but from the economy as a secondary effect to what's happening right now. And if you're not in a place where you actually are good right now, but thinking about the future, then you could get left behind, because there's going to be two things that are going to happen right now, and they're already happening. Number one is probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of businesses are going to go out of business in the economy. However, with great challenge also comes opportunity. So there's going to be a massive amount of opportunity, not right now, but maybe in the next 6 months. And that's where my mind is at, because I almost feel like I've been waiting for something like, don't take this wrong way, but I almost feel like I've been waiting for something like this in order to find my next big thing that is going to take off. And, while I'll always be here doing these types of videos and stuff like that, and helping people, there's a part of me that feels like I've been playing small for a long time, and, building a couple of six-figure businesses, multi-six-figure businesses. That's great, right? Like, I'm really proud of where I've been, but there's so much more. And if you're here right now, then I know that you totally get that as well. And maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you feel like even if you are just starting out right now, maybe you've done really well in your career, but you feel like there's more. And I think that's the people that I typically attract into what I'm doing right now, is the people who are somewhat successful in some parts of their life. However, they know that there's more. And what that means is that if you can be in the right place at the right time with the right guidance and execute it in the right way, then there's going to be massive potential for growth for you in all areas of life. So that we can do the thing that I really want people to know, is that you can live wherever you want and work from wherever you want. You can travel perpetually if you want to. You can be happy most of the time. And when you're not happy, when you are going through those challenging times, you know that you're supposed to be going through those challenging times, and you're sort of grateful for it because it creates a bigger desire. Those are the key principles that I want to share with people, because once you're coming from that place, like, life is so rewarding and so much fun. And yeah, there's just I can't even explain it. Like, the people who get it, right? And the better it gets, the better it gets. So anyway, that's where we're at with health, and I want you to be there as well, so that you have the best opportunity to actually create the life that you do desire. And I'm not saying that what we're going through right now isn't a challenging time, and I'm not saying that it's not serious. 100% it is. It's very interesting times. It's very challenging for some people. But there's always a positive and a negative to it. And that's something that I want to cover now, is my self-quarantine, which is happening right now in the van, which is sort of strange, right? So I need to self-quarantine for a couple of weeks after getting back from overseas, and I definitely want to do my bit, like 100%. However, there's also the reality behind doing that, living in a van as well. I figured out a way to get the juices with very little contact. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to get food without very little contact. However, that may be the challenging one. So I'll just take the right precautions to minimize any contact with any people, blah, 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 and do my bit, because, I think like it's important for everybody to do their bit, right? Because if we're resisting something because of ignorance or arrogance or anything like that, then it actually doesn't help the situation. Where if we're doing the right thing and we feel like we're doing the right thing coming from a positive place, then it actually helps inspire other people to come from that place as well. And people will naturally if you're coming from a really strong place of like being in your body, being completely self-centered, of not having any fear like most of the world does right now, the right people will start gravitating towards you, and you'll be like a beam of light in their life. And that's something that I try and do before I'm doing any type of content. It's something that I try and do every single day. I sort of have this presupposition in my mind, this belief that every single morning that I sort of get myself in this place where only the right people are going to come into my life that day. So the people who want to have a laugh, who want to have fun, who want to make some jokes, all of those types of people who are also vibing at that level come into my life. Now, it doesn't mean that those people are always that way. Maybe it's just the interaction that they have when they're with me that is fun and funny and all of those things. And that generally happens if I do the work each and every morning to actually get myself in that place. It's, some of you guys will know that I went on a law of attraction cruise recently, and that's basically what the law of attraction is. You attract where you are, not what you want, right? So if you want to attract fun, if you want to attract prosperity, if you want to attract well-being, then that's where the vibration that you need to put off, which means you need to get yourself in that place every single morning. And there's no better time than being in self-quarantine to actually do that. So what I do every single morning while I'm here in the van, self-quarantining and blah, 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 and all of that fun stuff, I'm meditating as soon as I wake up. I'm going to talk more about that later as well. I am doing deep breathing. So deep breathing really amplifies the energy in my body to be at a really high level. And I feel really great from that. I'm also, and then I also like to drink my medicinal cacao tea, as many of you know. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can check it out on my channel. Make sure you subscribe while you're here as well. And that just makes me so happy. Like, if there's anything in the world that makes me happy, like unconditionally, it is drinking my medicinal hot chocolate. And then I like to either read something or like say something out loud or write something that gets myself in a high positive direction of like high vibes and positive affirmations or whatever you want to call it. Something that just gets my energy moving in the right direction. And it's the teachings that I've been listening to recently on the law of attraction is Abraham Hicks, and they talk about getting out ahead of it, which means if you can get yourself going off in a positive momentum direction, that momentum gets stronger and stronger and stronger, so that when you do come across something that is challenging through your day, it's actually much easier to navigate. And sometimes you don't come across as many challenging things, whereas a lot of people wake up and the first thing they do is check out social media and they see all of the recent things going on in the world that are definitely not high vibing, and you start to think about how the world is doomed, and then you walk outside and you like might see all of the other people who are thinking the world is doomed as well, and they all look miserable and they're like fighting each other, and like it's just a self-perpetuating cycle, right? So if you can flip that and think about the positive things and focus on them throughout the day, then your life will start to attract more of those things. Everything is attraction based, right? There's no assertion. Everything is attracting. So you create your own reality. If you want to create a better reality, you need to actually work on that. So doing all of those things is so important. And when you do that, you realize that while there are a lot of challenging things, and I don't like the word negative, there's a lot of challenges right now, but it's also the state that the world is in right now, why there's going to be a lot of a lot of changes. There's also a lot of positive things to it, right? The first, and I try and find these in all situations, the first thing that I think is really positive is that it's allowing us as humans to slow down. Like, if I didn't buy this van, like I've said this before, this van saved my life, because at the time before I bought the van, I was working like 80, 90 hours a week. I was literally killing myself in work and just always, in that fight or flight mode and running on adrenaline. And that's how, and coffee, right? And that's how most people live on a daily basis, and have been doing so for years, maybe decades. So like this time right now is really a time for people to like slow down massively. And what that does is it helps on so many levels. First of all, your nervous system gets to slow down, so you start to be more centered and more grounded, which means you can think properly again. And what that does is then allows you to think about what's actually important. Is it when you wake up when you're sitting there on your deathbed at whatever age that you want to transition into death, what are you going to think about? Are you going to think about all of the times that you worked in a job that you hated, in just to buy things that you didn't need in order to impress people that you don't like? Or are you going to think about the people that you met? You're going to think about all the times that you spent with your family? Are you going to think about all the places that you traveled? Are you going to think about all the things that you created? So many people never take the time to think about that. So by being forced to like be in one spot essentially for a couple of weeks, maybe longer, it's allowing people to like think about those things again and sort of try and understand what's really important in their life. So that's a massive positive thing that is going to come from this. And so, for some people, that like being with themselves and thinking about those things is going to be like the worst thing that they could ever do. It's going to be like a massive nightmare because they've never been there before. However, there's going to be a massive transition of people who realize what's more important, and they'll start to prioritize those things that are positive in their life and that they want to remember much more. It's also going to create a massive desire for more remote work. So, the term digital nomad is going to grow quite a lot. And whether that's working remotely from home for an employer, or whether that's building some sort of income stream that you own, that you can have complete control of and make as much or as little money as you do wish, that's going to continue to grow as well. And then let's take a look at some of the other positives that have come from this as like globally, right? The the reduction of emissions from on the environment from all different sources is like lifting quite a lot. So the pollution all over the world is really just the earth is starting to breathe again, right? So not flying all the time, not having all those cruise ships going all the time, not doing so much work and driving all the time is allowing the pollution to evaporate a little bit and the earth to have a little bit of a recovery on everything that we've done to it over the last few decades. So that's a really positive thing, right? There's a lot of positive environmental things that are happening right now. So basically it's allowing us to find balance. Everything always comes back into balance in one way or another. And sometimes it takes drastic actions to when we're drastically out of balance, right? So consider that there are some positive things happening. And look, there's a lot of negative things happening. I'm not going to perpetuate any of the predictions or hypotheses or speculation that you might be hearing out there. And there's plenty of that, and you can buy into whichever one sort of feels right for you, or you can buy into none of them. But I like to buy into the positive things, and that really brings me to dooms. And it really comes down to this: is like, what are you focusing on right now? And like I said, we've already touched on this. Everything is attraction based in this reality, right? You attract what you think about, whether you like it or not. And if you think the world is doomed, then it probably is, and you're probably not going to have a lot of fun. Whereas if you think the world is, all these things are happening for the right reasons and that everything is going to be okay, then it probably will be. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that we need to think about. There's a lot of things that could happen that could be really tough for humans. But the only way you fear that is because of this one reason, and that is the fear of death. That is the biggest thing that is causing people to have massive amounts of fear right now, is because there's a deeply ingrained fear of death. And that's deeply ingrained in us for a whole host of different reasons. And the reason, I guess, like, it's hard for me to explain why I no longer have the fear of death. I will say that it's from psychedelics. I feel like I've been taken to death before within a psychedelic journey on ayahuasca. And I can't really explain that in words, what that actually felt like. Actually, let me try. So during an ayahuasca ceremony a few years ago, it was the very first night. I went in with the intention of, like, I completely trust the medicine. I just want to know what it's all about. I surrendered to the entire process, and I did 5 ceremonies across a week and a bit. And this first ceremony was nothing at all like any of the other ceremonies. It's been like an experience that I haven't even replicated since in any way, shape, or form. It was a very uncommon experience. But basically, to make a long story short, as the medicine was coming on, and it was a very deep internal journey. So the ayahuasca medicine is like a very strong feminine energy. It moves. It's like part of the medicine is actually a vine, and a lot of people say that it moves through your body like a vine. And I absolutely felt that on night one. I felt that every night, but especially night one, where it was moving through my body and exploring everything of who I was. And basically the patterns I got was like going very internally into myself, and you see a whole lot of shapes and colors and kaleidoscopes and all of those patterns that you sort of see when you watch videos on psychedelics. Like, they're very real. That's exactly what you see. And eventually it led me to this place where I felt like that was my reality, and everything was like just pure love, like that unconditional love, right? And I felt more comfortable there than I did in this reality right now that I'm speaking in. And I actually felt like the entire day leading up to that point was just the dream that I had in a sleeping state that I had in that reality. And so from like waking up in the morning to catching a bus to out to the jungle, or a bus and then a boat out into the jungle, I felt like that was all just a dream. And where I was in that place of like pure love, where I had massive amounts of scope around like all of the world, I felt really connected to everything. I felt like pure love. And then this thing clicked in my mind. I was like, hold on a second. I've actually, while I feel so comfortable here and while I feel at home, this is actually not my home. I think I've died. And things, as soon as I had that realization, things just started speeding up, speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. And it was almost like very chaotic and like I didn't know what to do. And the more I thought about it, the stronger it got. And then it took a little while, but then I eventually got to this point where I was like, well, if I'm dead, I'm dead. Like there's nothing I can do about it. So, and it feels pretty good here. So why don't I just be okay with it? And the very second, like not even, there's no amount of time that's too small that I can tell you. The moment that I accepted that I was dead, it dropped me back into my body, back into the room, and I took the deepest breath of my entire life. And as soon as I came back into the room of where we were, I realized is like, I think I just died, because that's exactly what it felt like. And from that moment, like life's just been so much easier. I don't have any anxiety. I don't have any, anything like that. And the fear of death is no longer there. I can absolutely say that the fear of death is no longer there, because if that's what it feels like, I'm ready to go. Right? It's just pure love. And it's sort of, if you've listened to any stories of people who say they have those near death experiences, or where they've actually been actually been said that they were dead and people have brought them back to life, like they're very similar explanations, and those people have a similar outlook on life as well. And there's a lot of truth to that, whether you experience it for yourself or not. You don't have to experience it for yourself, absolutely not. But consider that you can get to that place where death is no longer a problem. And when you're in that place, then life just somehow becomes easier. And I've never talked about that before. I don't know why I decided to talk about that today. I definitely didn't plan to talk about that, but I think you can get there without actually having that experience. However, if you feel called to having an experience like that, then I would say go for it. And it's not for everybody. If you don't feel called, that's totally cool. You don't have to as well. So as long as we're fearing death, then that's going to bring up a lot of the fear, which is why a lot of people are doing that right now. It activates the reptilian brain in the back of the head, which is great for reasons like, really fast decisions. If someone walks out in front of you while you're driving your car, it's the reptilian brain that tells you to slam on your brakes as quickly as possible. But it's also the thing that keeps us in a massive state of fear. And it's the thing that makes people panic buy and like all of that type of stuff, right? So consider that there's that fear of death is a major thing right now. And probably the best way to manage that, besides the experiences that I've had, is meditation. So I've been saying this for a while, so I'm going to finish up with meditation. Basically, this is what I do. I actually sit right here, or I sit on my bed just behind me. I like to sit cross-legged. You don't have to. You can sit however you feel comfortable. And I just breathe. So I'll close my eyes. I'll take a deep breath in first of all. So, and I sort of, as I breathe out that first breath, I sort of just let everything fall and try and release everything out of your body, because your body actually holds a lot of emotion as well. Your body stores a lot of trauma. So the more that you can deeply breathe into the body and let all of that stress and that tension go, you'll find that there's a lot of areas that you're holding tension in. Try and let them go. And then I'll sit there for 20 minutes, depending how long I feel, and just focus on the breath. So breathing in, breathing out, and thoughts will come in, release those thoughts, focus on the breath again. You might get a few seconds, more thoughts will come in, release those thoughts, and just keep focusing on the breath. Now, my phone's down the front because it's getting a signal for the Wi-Fi now, but there's an app called Insight Timer, and you can actually use that to track how long, and it'll ding you in and out so that you know how long you're going for. And basically that's what I do every single day for at least 20 minutes. And it would be the most impactful thing that you can do right now. Well, not just right now, but anytime, but especially right now, to make sure you're in your body, to make sure you're in that place, that heart space, to make sure you're connected to who you are, to make sure it's a really good place. If you feel like you need to do it twice a day, do it twice a day. Sometimes I'll do it in the afternoon as well, but the best time is first thing in the morning, and I guarantee that you're going to feel much better. So I think we're going to end it there. Let me check my notes. I think we're good. The only thing that I want to say after that is if you're meditating daily, and if you are releasing resistance, if you're staying away from that fearful place, and not buying into the fear that a lot of the rest of the world is, what you'll start to see happen over maybe a week or maybe a couple of weeks is that after you come out of meditation, you'll start to get these impulses to go somewhere or to do something or to call this person or to drive somewhere or to like read something. And these impulses are, if you're connected to your own inner being, will lead you in the right direction. And just following those impulses when you're in a good place will potentially help you uncover your next step. And it might not feel logical or seem logical to you in the beginning, but it might lead you to one thing, which leads to another thing, which leads you to another, which brings this new business idea to you, which starts to take off from day one. And I truly believe in that, for the simple fact that it's happened to me so many times. I follow these impulses almost on a daily basis now, and it leads me to everything that I want. It's as simple as that. So I encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to meditate daily, stay healthy, stay positive. We will get through this. Human beings are so underrated. We've got through so much more. And while this is probably one of the biggest challenges and will be something that goes down in history as one of those times that changed the world forever, have a strong outlook. I think we're good. So if you do ever want to reach out to me personally, more than happy to talk with you. Send me a message on Instagram at mitch.asser. I'll get back to you. If you like this, leave a comment down below. I'd be super, super grateful for that. I'd just love to know where you're at right now, if you appreciated this. I really just wanted to take the time to acknowledge where we're at, share my outlook on life, share what's working for me in my life, and really just have a little bit of beam of light and hope for people out there who are struggling right now. And like the reason why I know this works is because a lot of people are struggling right now. I've done no marketing in my business. I've got $13,000 worth of work to fulfill on over the next 6 weeks. That just came to me in the last few days. And that's what happens. I'm not saying it to brag. I'm saying that what I just said to you, everything I just said to you right now works, right? Things just start coming to you. So get out there, do it, do the work, and you'll receive everything you want. I promise you that. So till next time, I love you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.